And listening to you all talk, it sounds as though the role of mentors is really important, both mentors as a married person or in a relationship, but also mentors as a parent. And I think about myself personally, I learned how to be generous or how to be committed to a relationship from watching my parents and my grandparents, couples in my church, people in my ballet studio, teachers at school, and looking at your research or and talking to the people you've been researching, for those that it's working, who are their mentors? How are they learning to be generous? How are they learning to say, I'm in this forever and I'm not leaving? Where do they get that?
Well, I think that's part of the story with the people we talk to who do have very fragile relationships. Because I know we asked a question, we said, what could be done to strengthen your relationship? And I remember one person I talked to, she said, it would just be great to have dinner with a married couple. She wasn't married herself, but she said, it would be great to have dinner with a married couple. She didn't know any married couples. And so it's hard to know exactly what to expect from marriage when you don't know anybody.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you see this in your work, but I mean, it just seems like there's, particularly for the 50 or 60% of the country that has not spent 4 years in this big institution of, liberal art, college, but they graduate from high school, they get a job, or they go to community college or beauty school or whatever, and they get a job. For that majority of Americans, the word that the scholars use is deinstitutionalization. There's just a withering away of institutions that touch those people. So, I don't know. It seems to me like my little bit of experience is, well, you can go to a bar.
Sports events. Right.
But the institutions where you would see this, what you're talking about, it seems like there's been a withering away of those institutions, particularly for this very large group of Americans.
There's work that's been done in sort of the political sphere that talks about how, for instance, for African Americans, historically the black church has been a very important training ground for these kinds of social virtues and speaking in public, running a meeting, but also kind of just communication, conflict, in a constructive fashion. And that is unfortunately withering to a great degree, as you're pointing out, in many working class and poor communities. So they're not being equipped in ways that would also benefit them in their home life too.
And that's something I've thought a lot. I mean, Amy and I are also working together on a project on aging, death, and dying in an era of high family fragmentation. One of the things we're looking at is how this concept of honor your father and mother, and when your own parent is aging, how did you learn to honor your parent? And if so, what does that mean to you when your parent is aging? The concept of mentors and this marriage question, someone who came of age in the 70s with a single mom, and a lot of these kind of ideas in the soup about, individualism and do what you need to do, and women are strong, and you don't have to, you can go it alone. And my parents, both of them, were very generous in the world, but I did not see a model of marital generosity happen in front of me. And as someone 15 years married now, I mean, that's something that I'm grateful that I do this work, because I've soaked up a lot, I hope, by the people that I'm around and the research that I read and the mentors that I've kind of found through work who showed me something about what generosity means that I don't think I came into my marriage with those ideas. So I do agree the mentoring stuff is powerful and all too lacking.
Is the generous marriage more possible in an era of greater gender equality? In other words, I'm just trying to think this through, if the idea of being self-giving is told to a couple where one person is clearly in charge of the couple.
Right. The male head of household kind of.
Well, I'm just trying to. I'm just saying. It seems to me that if in the 70s what was being said is, generosity, that seems like that's a one-way street. That seems like women giving up their lives to support their husbands' careers and ambitions and need to watch football games, and so therefore, screw that. But if the marital model is an equal regard model that says, that has a more egalitarian concept of some kind, perhaps this notion of mutual generosity, I'm not sure.
No, I think actually, I mean, I think we have to be careful not to be too negative here. And I think what I would say is that what we find is that generosity for both wives and husbands is predictive of good marital outcomes. And so we should be encouraging people to sort of reject the 70s model where you have oftentimes many wives who are kind of reacting to a model where they were expected to do all the sacrificing in the marriage. And that's understandable that they rejected that, but the idea is not to replace that with both folks being selfish. It's actually to replace that with both wives and husbands being generous. That's the solution.
Yeah.